Cade Klubnik, CJ Carr, Bryce Underwood, and Ty Simpson. All four of these major college quarterbacks need to step up their game if their teams are going to the college football playoff.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Getting your future bets now at FanDuel.com. We're going to be talking about four quarterbacks and use them as a microcosm of what's going on in college football with the polls, with the expectations, with the teams they're playing for, everything combined. I think these four are great microcosms of your back's against the wall, and usually the quarterback position needs to take a step up if those teams are going to make a run at the playoffs, college, pro, or any level. But with us talking about college football today, it's a really razor-thin margin. Notre Dame's 0-1. Michigan, they've got a long way to go after their loss against Oklahoma. Any chance they have, they need to win. Alabama looked really poor against Florida State. They played better this past week, but there's some iffiness. And then Clemson, they didn't even score a touchdown a couple of weeks ago against LSU or any points in the second half at home. All these quarterbacks that lead these teams, Cade Klubnik, CJ Carr, Bryce Underwood, Ty Simpson, they need to take a step up. I'm going to talk about them as a prospect, what I expected, and we're going to go through their numbers. Statistically, like what are they doing to make this really work? But again, if you take nothing else from this conversation, note that if each of these four do not take a step up, there's a chance any one of these teams, if not all four of them, could miss the college football playoff. Let's start off with Cade Klubnik. This is a kid that was a 5-star by some, different analysts and scouting services. I had the chance to see him in high school at the Elite 11 in Dallas when he was coming out. And I thought that he was one of the best players in the country in terms of just reading and doing everything that he's told, picking up direction. And I really thought he was going to be a great college player. But he has had the yips when it comes to big games early in seasons. And Clemson in general starts slow. But, they were down 16-0 to Troy this past weekend. I thought they were going to lose at one point. They just didn't seem to have any pickup at all. And, Cade didn't play terrible by any means, but he didn't play lights out either. 196 yards, 8.2 yards per attempt, standard, 2 touchdowns, did have a pick, but he was 18 out of 24. They throw a lot of screens, try to get their athletes, and they have a plethora, the football in space. But Cade just wasn't on his game early, and their offensive line, let's be really clear here. This is something I'm going to talk about throughout the pod. They didn't help him a lot because the run game was at best iffy. They're not getting enough of those 3, 4, 5-yard runs on 1st and 10, not consistently enough. And this was against Troy. What are they going to do? Because they got Georgia Tech coming up this weekend. I'm looking at that game, and I'm like, Georgia Tech's got a physical football team. If they can limit possessions or just get one more turnover if they're +1, that could be a game that goes down to the wire, and Clemson could be in a lot of trouble. Clemson right now is ranked 12th at 1-1. If they lose the Tech game, they would pretty much need to run the table and or run the table plus winning the ACC title game. It's iffy. It's going to be a lot of teams on this bubble. We'll see. But they would really need to step up at that point. The Georgia Tech game is very, very important. So here are a couple other questions I have with Cade. In the first quarter, I mentioned how he's just not the fastest starter, neither is Clemson. This season in 2 games, he is 9 out of 16 in the first quarter as a passer, 56 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. That's not going to get it done. This is a guy that had a lot of moxie, had a lot of character. Everybody thought he was a leader. But you still got to perform and just put the ball on the money, make the right decisions, above all else, as the starting quarterback for the Clemson Tigers. He hasn't been that consistent, and I don't think he's had a ton of help. Maybe there's not as much chemistry as we at least thought. He had some young receivers that really stepped up towards the end of last year. That game against Texas, they didn't win, but they could throw it around. That just hasn't shown itself this year. Will that be the case when they go on the road and it's kind of like the attempt to galvanize your program? It's us against the world. I kind of think that's going to happen. That's my guess. I like Clemson in that game, although close. But I will say it right now. If Cade comes out and has similar numbers to what he's had in the first quarter, the first two games, that may not work out so well. Clemson could find themselves on the outside looking in at the college football playoff, and quickly. Next up, Notre Dame and CJ Carr. Now, they only played one game at Miami, had a gallant comeback that came up short, losing 27-24 to the Miami Hurricanes. Then they were off this past week. But the schedule goes right back to being quite difficult with the Texas A&M Aggies and Marcel Reed coming to town. Le'Veon Moss and just a bevy of good skill players like across the board. KC Concepcion is now on campus. They certainly improved their wide receiver room. A&M's got one of the best offensive lines. You're going to have to score. A&M's going to get in the 20s. This isn't going to be 23-13, I don't think, again. Some people are talking about that. I don't think so. I don't think Notre Dame's defensive tackles are good enough to keep A&M off the board like they did last year. They were much better at D-tackle than they are this year. CJ's going to have to throw the ball, and he's going to have to get away from just throwing screens and 5-yard passes. Notwithstanding the very well-thrown, busted coverage play that he had to Eli Raridan against Miami in week 1, he has not thrown the ball down the field that much. And again, that was his first college start, his first passes, etc. But we need to see something. The schedule isn't super easy coming up for them either. They got the game coming up here with A&M, but they also have, in 2 weeks, they got to go to Arkansas. That'll be loud and crazy. And they also have the USC Trojans on October 18th, and they can score. Notre Dame going to go against Taylor Green. Then they're going to turn around, and they're going to go against Jordan Maeva and all those. Like Mekhi Lemon might be the best route runner in college football. They're going to score against Notre Dame, especially if they keep playing that zone defense. Notre Dame needs CJ to step up. So a couple of questions I have. Will he consistently push the ball down the field? A&M struggled last year a little bit, to say the least, with just basic zone coverages. And Mike Elko, the head coach, defensive-minded guy who actually coached at Notre Dame in 2017, he even brought it up. We can't run basic zone. Like, I think all that stuff has been fixed. You're going to have to throw some down the field, middle of the field, between linebacker, in front of the safety kind of passes. If you're Notre Dame, you don't really want him to do a lot of that, but there's probably going to have to be a few. Marcus Freeman and his staff, Mike Denbrock, they do a good job, but they're going to have to grit their teeth, and he's got to make some of those throws. If CJ Carr can do that, and they also hand it off more to Jeremiah Love, which part of that was on CJ with the RPOs. He should have handed off more to him and Jadarian Price. They should be in a pretty good spot against A&M offensively, but it still is going to come down to a couple of those big throws. They got to get the ball down the field. Malachi Fields, Jaden Greathouse didn't have a catch against Miami. They tried a few times, but I don't think they schemed that up very well. They should have ran more stack formations, etc. Make Miami's DBs think and get them in confusing situations because they had some young guys. A&M's got some transfers and different players on their defense, and their D-line's not as good as it was. I could see that being a really good game going down to the fourth quarter. But again, I want to say it one more time. At some point, CJ's going to have to push the ball down the field in between defenders and make accurate, on-time rhythm throws. He's certainly capable. But if he doesn't, and Notre Dame starts 0-2, their playoffs are probably going to go up in smokes. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Michigan Wolverines, and we're also going to talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide. Will either one of them be able to make a run at the college football playoff? That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf flavored to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out there on the course and you just need a little bit of an extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. Whether you're just having some fun with your friends or it's a serious money game that you're out there on the golf course with, this is an opportunity to get yourself going with 5-Hour Energy. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape ginger lime flavor of 5-hour energy transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without ever leaving the course, chasing down the beverage cart. Tee it up and let it rip. Visit 5-he-win.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Exclude the Masters Tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here. FanDuel is making sure that you win with each and every kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use any place you want across the app. So if you want to talk about the opportunity to bet on division winners, if you want to talk about who's going to win this weekend's game on just the basic over-unders or the final point spread, you have your shot with FanDuel and a possible extra $300 for you. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now and visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of things going on in college football. The coaching madness. I've already got a post or a podcast I put up about that. I've already got a top 5, unfortunately, for several coaches, with a couple more headed towards the hot seat. And I'm looking at a certain coach in Manhattan, Kansas, and we're going to be talking about the ramifications of recruits leaving, the transfer portal opening up, and all kinds of opportunities, Billy Napier and all kinds of other things. So check it out right here on the Portal Podcast. But right now, one of the biggest things that I want to talk about is Bryce Underwood in Michigan. This is a really convoluted situation. They won their first game, but then their second contest, they had to go to Norman, Oklahoma. Probably about as difficult a task as you could ask Bryce Underwood to do. Brent Venables and his staff do a really good job with post-snap changes. The worst possible scenario for a young quarterback. But that's exactly what happened. We knew it was coming, show a lot of different looks, and be completely different after the snap. They came after him some too, but he was really, really poor in the game in terms of throwing the football. And right now, if you look at him overall for the season, he's 79th in the nation, 196 yards per game. You know, first 2 games as a starter, true freshman. He just turned 18 recently. But this is one of the most talented kids that I ever had the chance to watch. Like CJ was really good. They played in the same area in Michigan. And CJ went to Notre Dame. I think he's going to be really, really good. But Bryce Underwood's size, arm talent, and all that, if he figures it out, especially if he could do it this year, he could be one of those legendary college quarterbacks. But he's up against it. Here are some of the teams they've got coming up. October 4th, they play at Southern Cal. October 18th, they play their rivalry game at Michigan State. They've got Ohio State at the end of the year. There are several games like that that are tough, and they've got Washington at home, a team that can score. I love their quarterback. We need to see Bryce be able to make more of the reads. Like he hit like 9 out of 24 or something like that against Michigan or against Oklahoma. They tore him up, and his receivers didn't help him. The play calling is always conservative with Michigan. That's their offense. That's why they're not recruiting receiver very well. But at the same time, this is a group, in my opinion, that if they can galvanize and hopefully get their tight end back, I think that their running game, like, it's pretty dynamic for a power run game. Like, they can break off wrong runs. The long touchdown they had early in the third quarter, Jess Haynes is a dude, but Bryce has to take advantage of that. He's got to be able to throw the football down the field off of those, and his tight ends, receivers, and running backs, it's got to be more natural because he missed a lot of throws, and it really wasn't all that close on some of them. There was some frustration on pass protection, etc. He got into it with Haynes, etc., that on the sidelines. There are a lot of things that you're going to have to see from him if Michigan's got any chance. And I think it's pretty slim anyway with a freshman quarterback. But that defense is legit. You've got multiple running backs. Marshall's a heck of a running back too, that can probably end up at least making it to the NFL Combine. There's no reason to think if Bryce doesn't take a step up in his game, Michigan can't be in that conversation with the Ohio State game always on the line at the end of the year, of course. And it's in Ann Arbor. He figures out maybe they just ruined Ohio State season. They've done it before. Done it 4 years in a row. If Bryce starts to figure it out, watch out for the Michigan Wolverines down the stretch. This is one of those teams that could go either direction, and I wouldn't want to bet either way. Finally, Ty Simpson. Alabama's got Wisconsin coming up this week. He's 41st in the nation right now at 240 yards a game, 40 out of 60, 66.7 yards, 480 yards in a couple of games, 8.0 per attempt, which is standard. 5 touchdowns, no picks. He's Mr. Consistency. And speaking of, I didn't realize this till I looked it up. I know it was Louisiana Monroe, but he was 17 for 17 in their last game. Yeah, literally, you can't throw it any better than to be 17 for 17. So he was 226 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But Ty Simpson was harassed and looked a little bit uncomfortable against Florida State. They showed some different fronts and did some different things that he's probably used to. Tony White's defense at FSU is a hassle to deal with. But I expected more from a redshirt junior. And I know he hadn't been a serious starter, a contender for starting position until this year. But that warned me that there was still some growth. But he showed a big difference in this past week. Now the questions are pretty simple. Can Ryan Williams get back sooner than later? We'll talk about their schedule in a second. It is not friendly. And will the run game be consistent against good teams? They only ran for 87 yards, I believe it was, against Florida State. That's not acceptable at Alabama. It's not even in the stratosphere. 130, 140 against Florida State would have been fine. Under 90, you need to help your new quarterback adjust. Alabama still has playoff aspirations, but they're not going to the playoff unless that offensive line not only protects for Simpson, but gives him more manageable situations. They were in too many 3rd and 5 and long, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, whatever. They just can't be in those situations all day. You're not going to win with any quarterback if you're consistently doing that. So, do I think Simpson can get him there? Probably. He's pretty accurate, and he's a better athlete than I really thought he was. But now let's talk about the absolutely ridiculous nature of their schedule in a game that I didn't really think much about until I looked it up today, just kind of by accident. They've got Wisconsin this weekend coming down. That's interesting, but do we really think Alabama's losing to Wisconsin? No, Wisconsin's not that good. But coming up, they've got Missouri on the October 11th on the road. That's the game I want to circle right now because I'm not sure Alabama will give them their best punch. They got Bo Prabula, and that defense are legit. But before that, they got to go to Georgia, September 27th. That's about as tough a game as there's going to be in college football this year. They also have Tennessee at home. They also have to go to South Carolina, to Auburn. Ty Simpson, it's not the accuracy. It's going to be the downfield shots, Ryan Williams' health, and that run game. I think he needs to take another step up in terms of throwing the ball down the field. It's 8 yards per play. A lot of screens, a lot of short stuff, and that's fine. But he can't be a game manager in Alabama and make it to the playoff. Not against that schedule. He's accurate, but kind of like CJ Carr with Notre Dame. You got to push the ball down the field. CJ's very accurate too. Got to push the ball down the field, at least some. If not, Alabama is not going to be in the college football playoff. And they've got plenty of talent on defense. That is certainly not an issue. When we come back, I'm going to talk about a few other quarterbacks and what I expect this year with the college football playoff. This is the wildest year we've had in a long time. And notwithstanding Cade Klubnik, CJ Carr, Bryce Underwood, Ty Simpson, there are a few other quarterbacks like Gunnar Stockton that are really important to discuss. Which ones of these guys are really going to take that step to help their team get to the playoff? That is next year on the Portal Podcast. College football is back, thankfully, and I couldn't be more excited about tailgates, the rivalries, all the energy in the stands. It's a great time to be at a college football game, and there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually, finding tickets is not always the most fun, and you're often left wondering, wait a minute, I didn't think that was the price. What's going on with this? It can be really, really frustrating, and that's why I use Gametime, and you should as well. With the Gametime app, the price you see at the beginning is the one you're going to get as you move through the app. You're not going to see it change at checkout. You get the same price at the front as you do on the back. So For example, if it's $100, when you first click on that ticket, it's going to be $100. If you're going to click on it and it says $50, it's $50. The app makes it easy too. You just type in a team name. It could be college game, could be pro, anything else. The Gametime app makes it really easy. And they even have a seat view for you. You click on your seat, you see the venue from that seat. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, download the Gametime app today. Now let's talk about the overview of the college football playoff and kind of where we are. We've got some surprises up and down in college football, but quarterbacks in general, they're confusing. You get guys that get red hot early in a game, and sometimes they kind of falter in the middle, and then they pick back up. Gunnar Stockton's that way. He's really good in the first quarter and the fourth quarter. I was looking at his stats today for the Georgia Bulldogs, but in the middle, he's 50s or low 60s. He's just okay throwing the football. Why? There are a lot of little things like this that drive coaches crazy, and it's why some of their comments at press conferences can be a little concerning. But let's be honest. These are still college kids, and they're growing. Which guys do you think that are in the top 20? Just pull up your AP poll wherever you're at. Think about it for a second. Which guys do you trust? Whether it's an undefeated team right now or whether it's a team that probably needs some help like Notre Dame or Clemson, etc. Which quarterback do you trust to make the big plays in big games? Even at the college level, doesn't have to be pro football. Quarterbacks have to make the key throws. This isn't 1985 where it's 3 yards in a cloud of dust anymore. Woody Hayes is long gone. May he rest in peace. There needs to be the ability to throw the football even when the opponent knows it. So which quarterbacks do you trust? I think that it's obvious. A certain quarterback at LSU, he can be a clutch passer. He's kind of earned that right. Taylor Green's a guy that I think can be somebody that surprises. I don't think Arkansas is going to the playoff, but remember, they got Notre Dame coming up in a couple of weeks. Don't be surprised if that is a very good game in the fourth quarter. Green can run and he can throw. That's a guy that we need to see more from him, but like he's got all the talent in the world. How about a certain young man named Julian Sayin at Ohio State? Didn't have a huge game against Texas, but they won. They've got some big games coming up. Will he be able to do it when they play Penn State? That's a really good defense if they can rush the passer. Will Julian Sayin be that guy? If he is, Ohio State has a chance at the number 1 seed overall for the college football playoff. Absolutely, they do. Penn State, obviously, that's a situation where you got a veteran quarterback. He needs to prove it after that big pick he had against Notre Dame that cost him a chance to go to the college football national championship game. But at least he's a senior. What about Jaden Maeva at Southern Cal? He's off to a red-hot start. And I'll say it again. There is no doubt about it in my mind. Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon and all the guys at USC, they can throw it around. Do not discount him. They could be a dark horse for the playoff. I know they got a tough schedule. Watch out. And how about sticking on the West Coast? Dante Moore at Oregon. Holy cow, did he shred Oklahoma State. That is a guy that I thought was the best quarterback in the country and the best player in the class of 23. He's figured it out, and having DeCorian Moore and several other good receivers, good running backs, Mekhi Muse and all those different players they have, they've got some talent. Oregon's a team that could end up with the number 1 seed. Right now, if I had to pick, it'd be Oregon or Ohio State as my number 1. Those would be the top 2 teams for me. Their quarterbacks are playing the way that you need them to in conjunction with their defenses to give you a chance. But because of the way Moore is playing, I'd probably lean Ducks because they're explosive. So we'll see. If you don't believe me, ask Oklahoma State. And finally, Arch Manning. What do we think about Arch? He had 5 TDs in his second game, but he struggled quite a bit with Ohio State. They showed a lot of exotics and a lot of different things. Is he ready to take that next step? Is he going to be more accurate? Is his throwing motion going to be more consistent? There are a lot of questions I have about Arch. Very talented young man, but I'm not sold yet that he's that guy. Which player this Saturday out of this group and more? Gunnar Stockton's another one at Georgia. Like, he's got that game against Alabama coming up. Which guy is going to step up and take his game to the next level to give his squad a chance to not only make the playoff, but do something? Quarterback play is invaluable. If you don't have it, you're not winning a national title. And in a lot of cases, you're probably not even going to make it to your conference championship game or be able to beat your rival, anything like that. So we're going to be talking about this each and every week, looking at the quarterback play around college football. I was blessed to get to see most of these guys in high school, and I really, really enjoyed it. And it's fun covering them at the college level and talking about their stats and their opportunities to help their teams try to get to the playoff and make something happen. So thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. As I said earlier, we're going to have a lot of stuff going on with coaching. There's going to be some firings coming up real soon. Billy Napier is number one on my board. Check out that podcast. I have a top 5 of the hot seat already. And unfortunately, Billy, for him, he's at the top of that list. Also going to be talking about recruits. There's going to be some flips coming up. A lot of flips because of the coaching stuff. And we're going to see the portal also start to open up again. You're going to hear rumblings about players because their team's not doing good. Not buying in, they're going to leave. All of this stuff coming up on the Portal Podcast. So make sure you like and subscribe. And if you're on Apple, hit that automatic download so you don't miss an episode. We will see you again soon here on the Portal Podcast.